incorporating AI into the courses.
It could be university professors, but really it could be anyone who's willing to create a course and mess with it.
Yeah, we'll be able to purchase it next week, actually.
Welcome to the Tech Transfer Podcast. I'm Dave Brown. I'm here with Jacob Zundel, who's a software developer, and you've developed CourseEQ. So Please tell us about that.
Yeah, CourseEQ is basically a system that helps professors manage the courses across different learning management systems. It helps them develop their courses, it helps them refine their courses, and it also helps them get feedback from students and change it on the fly so that you don't have to spend so much time, going from different LMS to different LMS in order to perfect the craft.
Okay, and I should mention this is a BYU technology, and you are also a BYU graduate,
yes.
So that's great. But so what specific problem were you trying to solve? You mentioned it makes things easier, but what's it like for people using, say, Canvas right now versus with your technology?
Yeah, so with our technology, it's focused more on the enablement of redoing a course, on updating the courses and managing it across semesters, as well as different LMS systems. So for instance, we have Canvas and we're working on Blackboard and some other ones, so you can host it on a variety of different sites. And the main purpose is to help these professors who are phenomenal at what they do, who are subject matter experts, who have dedicated their lives to their craft, and help them take that knowledge and that understanding of their subject and translate it into that course, which is going to help enable the students to have a better and better experience as part of it.
So when I talk to new professors, so if people don't know, these learning management systems like Canvas or whatever, like everyone uses them, every campus, every professor.
Yes.
And so professors who are new will have to put in a lot of effort to create their courses at first.
Yes.
And then what if you're a professor and it's 10 years later, you've been teaching for a while, what are you doing to maintain the course typically?
Yeah, typically in that instance, what we have seen with the beta testers that we're going through the course right now is that we're able to adapt to new situations. So one of the biggest ones right now would be artificial intelligence, where it's changing the whole landscape of learning and how you experience coursework and other things like that. And so by leveraging artificial intelligence, we're able to move quickly in order to adapt these courses to students on the fly, basically. And so you're able to create the content, you're able to kind of create a smart GPT that's trained specifically on your course that will enable the students to work through different case studies or create their own quizzes around the subject in order to better understand the course and the subject that the professor is teaching. So it's really interesting because even though these professors have been teaching similar things for the last 10 years, they're able to create it in a new way where modern day students can take advantage of that.
Okay, so I picture myself as a professor. Maybe I drafted this quiz 5 years ago for a class. I look at it and kind of the factual situations, current events have changed.
Yes.
And so I could use a tool in your platform to update that and have it be a more timely, relevant quiz, for example.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Great. And what are some of the other little inefficiencies or pain points that are solved by CourseEQ?
Yeah. Some of the other pains, well, I personally was a TA for a few different classes while I was here at BYU, and it was just such a pain to update all of the nitty-gritty details for each new semester that came up. So over the course of my 4 years here at BYU, I was probably TA for 3 years, and each semester I would have to change every single date, all the quizzes. I would have to update them on the fly sometimes as well, depending on if the professor decided to push the quiz date or other things like that. And it was just such a pain because often they would have multiple courses across different LMS systems. And so I would have to log into each one. I would have to change every one granularly. And this one is adaptable where it can connect to all of those and change all of the courses from one button instead of having to go into each separate course and change it from there.
Yeah, and it seems crazy. I know if people haven't used them, but in a learning management system, often if you're creating the next semesters of the course, it's almost like you're starting from scratch. You're copying and pasting everything into the new course.
It's so annoying.
And so I love CourseEQ because it does away with all of that and just makes it very streamlined and easy to use.
Yeah.
And I should say right now you're in beta, right? So we'll put a link or something, but people could contact you and be part of the beta, right?
Yeah, for sure. We're looking for a lot of beta testers. We're also looking for people in maybe the non-traditional spaces of like building their own courses, but wanting to have it hosted on Canvas or other things like that.
So you mean like a non-academic doing this?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it could be corporate trainings. It could be just like your own course that you're hosting online, other things like that.
Yeah, and so other places you could be on, well, I guess academics could go to Coursera or some MOOC platform like that.
Yep.
Or as an individual, what are some like Udemy, places like that with courses, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, and so the beta could be university professors, but really it could be anyone who's willing to create a course and mess with it, right?
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Perfect. All right, well, what do you see in terms of quality of the courses themselves? What does your product help people make better courses?
Yeah, so we have a few different things that we can do with courses. I think one of the best ones is incorporating AI into the courses because most people these days are going to YouTube University or other things like that, and they can kind of get personalized content for them at the drop of a hat, or chatting with ChatGPT, they can get similar experiences. And with this one, we're kind of enabling that course to be a sort of mini ChatGPT that can help people in their specific situations and trained on a specific course. And so, for instance, with professors who are in a very complicated space, such as engineering, they can really help their students by using CourseEQ, because the students would then be have access to a variety of different tools that would help them learn on their own, which would, one, save time for TAs and professors and other people like that, and it would provide content ideas and future trainings for students where they would be able to almost help the professor iterate by interacting with this more interactive sort of learning process.
Okay. And so just very specifically for a student, so the student's on the other side of the learning management system.
Yeah.
So say a professor is using CourseEQ. For the student, when I go there, I have an idea of what Canvas typically shows, like your course and your homework and your quizzes and things. What would be different? What am I going to see differently as a student?
Yeah, with the student options, we're going to build it in where they can access a unique GPT as part of it. So you can either just like put a link in Canvas and it would take them to CourseEQ and they could go through it there. We're also creating different content creation portions within CourseEQ. So for instance, we have a case study generation functionality with it. So it could be like a specific use case that you're talking about. And this functionality will be able to create different case studies that that might be more understandable for the person who's trying to understand the content. And so they're able to like put in, okay, how would this work in my own life? And it'd be able to like make a comparison and go through a case study with them based on that.
Okay. And people are doing these things in learning management systems right now. It's just very manual, surprisingly manual.
Yes.
And so your tool is the only thing I've seen that kind of simplifies that for people. What have you thought about pricing model yet? What ultimately will people pay to use a service like this?
Yeah, we're definitely working through that right now. Like you said, we're still in the beta stages. We're mostly focused on providing as much value as we can. And we know professors typically wouldn't use this in, say, the summer months.
Right.
And so we might do it more on a quarterly basis, like $15 a month, $15 per quarter. And that way they can just use it to revitalize and revamp every quarter in order to make sure that all of their content is up to date and that the students can have access to maybe some new tools in order to learn their content.
Yeah, so that seems super reasonable to me as a price point. And how much time do you think you're saving a professor? Like if a professor's, they're using a learning management system, now they use your tool, how many hours in a quarter would they save?
Yeah. Just with my experience being a TA and working so closely with these professors, I would say probably like at least 5 hours a week.
Okay.
During those beginning stages where you're developing that course and like getting it launched.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all I did as a TA. We would just like update the course. We would update the content. We would try to answer questions for those specific content or the specific modules that we were helping the students with.
Mm-hmm.
And so this would not only be able to help them organize that, but also help enable the content and help enable the students to feel like they're in control of how they are learning.
Okay, so as a professor, over the course of a semester, you could maybe save like 60 hours of professor time.
Yeah.
Even if that's, even if it's less than that, like even if you're only saving 5 hours for $15, yeah, I'll pay $15 for 5 hours of my time. So, and professors, in my experience, are always busy. They're writing papers, they're teaching classes, and so that seemed like a really good pain point to hit. So what about teaching assistants? Are you going to market to students working on these things too, or is it mostly professors?
Yeah, right now we're focusing mostly on professors because we found that a lot of universities will allow these professors to kind of create their own courses as well. Mm-hmm. And so it's not only tied to saving money, but it's also tied to making money as well. And so they can manage their courses on Canvas as well as maybe another more personalized site. Mm-hmm. And that way they can monetize both at the same time. But we are also interested in talking with TAs. We probably wouldn't charge the TAs right now, just because we are in that beta stage. And I was a TA myself, and you don't get paid that much.
Yeah, true.
And so, but with the TAs being a target group, I think they're super valuable because they are working with the students day in and day out, asking questions and answering questions and doing the grading and other things like that. And so we have been utilizing a few different TAs that we've recruited, and they've been super helpful in helping us better understand some of the nuances of why students enjoy certain things and why students don't enjoy certain things, and then trying to incorporate that as well as the professor experience into it.
Okay, so I would think you have kind of two markets you're addressing. Like professors want to save time. Mm-hmm. That's what the tool is doing for them, and that's a really strong pain point. Teaching assistants, they're being paid hourly. They're probably not working that many hours. So maybe there the selling point more is, well, two things. One is avoiding errors, like getting things right so that you don't get in trouble with your employment. And then the other one is probably repurposing content if they're allowed to use it in other ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's great. So let's talk about some of those other ways. We touched on them a little bit, but the core market has got to be professors at universities.
Yep.
But could this be used in high schools, for example?
Oh, yeah. No, I think that would be super useful for high schools, especially because there is such a difference in learning styles from students. Uh-huh. I feel like in colleges, especially within the majors themselves, you get a more refined individual who responds well to the professors in those majors, and those majors have been able to kind of iterate and help these students understand better with the content. But in high school, it's much more broad. Yeah. You have students with incredibly variant backgrounds, and they're able to come together and try to learn this content. And so with that being said, and teachers are always overworked.
Well, and in high schools, do they use learning management systems the same way as colleges, or how does that work?
Yeah. So a lot of them are using Canvas. Canvas is still a very popular one. And a lot of them have internal LMS systems, kind of like BYU has one. Learning Suite.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about what we're doing is that it isn't dedicated to one specific LMS system, but it can just connect into those LMS systems, use the content that's already there, provide ideas, provide streamlined experiences for teachers and students and others.
Okay. So other stratas of academic teaching make sense. High school, maybe there are middle schools out there too, I don't know, that use them. But then what about non-academic applications? You mentioned corporate training.
Yeah.
Do they typically use a learning management system, or what do they do?
Yeah, so a lot of corporate trainings will come through LMS systems. I've seen a lot that are on Canvas, and I've seen a lot that are on internal tools. And even with those, like I said before, we can connect into them and just like pull the content and then streamline the process. And especially with corporate trainings, I find it really interesting because then you can, again, tailor the content as well as the tools given to the employees based on where they are. For instance, I worked for a large company that owned Milwaukee, and their trainings were super in-depth on like all the tools that they had. And what it would have been helpful for me as an employee is like, how do I incorporate this to my specific market? Because I wasn't talking to a nationwide audience like Milwaukee was, but to a specific audience in Utah, talking about, you know, some of the struggles that they might have and why Milwaukee would solve their problems better than maybe another.
Okay. So in terms of the
tool.
product, really that corporate use is, again, ease of modifying content.
Yeah.
You don't want to copy and paste and essentially be writing essays all day long, changing this information.
Yeah.
Instead, you want a tool that makes it really fast and easy,
Exactly.
which CourseEQ does.
Yeah.
So that's great. So that's a good application. And then personally, if you're kind of like a content creator, if you're interested in making things, the other thing you mentioned or that we touched on is using like Udemy and other platforms. You could create a course for sale and then put it out in several different platforms at once.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the exciting thing about that is that you can centralize the content, create a course around it, download it, and then put it onto basically any of the LMS systems that are out there. And they themselves typically have a following of individuals or a marketplace like Udemy. They have a massive marketplace where you can just post it on there. You have the initial content that catches people's eyes, and then as CourseEQ develops and becomes more enablement focused on like the AI side and other things like that, then you can say, hey, instead of just getting a course, you're basically getting me as a consultant for you through this AI. So you can ask it questions, it'll be trained on everything that we do and help you one-on-one, as many questions as you need in order to get you going. And so that's one thing that I'm really excited about in the future, is we're basically cloning these individuals who have had amazing success and enable everyone to be tutored by them on a one-on-one basis, basically.
Yeah. And even way before you get to that point, just with the product as it is now, if I can create a product and have it just one button published to several different platforms, you can see precedent for this with podcasts. There are all kinds of services that do that, syndicate and distribute your podcast. And so if I can do that with something more complicated with a course, that's super valuable. So where is CourseEQ at now in terms of development? Where is it? And then 6 months, 12 months from now, what do you expect to have happen?
Yeah. So right now the dashboard and the software and everything is all ready to go, which is super exciting. And we're currently connected with Canvas as our main one. But like I said before, we have different downloadable options where you can just download it and then upload it into different LMS systems.
That's good.
And so we have that functionality now.
Is there a standard format for LMS systems, or how does that work?
It kind of depends on them. Some of them will be more complicated than others, but something like Udemy, you can upload specific modules, and then you'll have to manually fine tune them in the future. Yeah. But once you have the course ready, then you can download it and then.
Okay. Still a huge time savings, but okay. Sorry for the tangent there.
Yeah, no worries. And so right now we're looking more for beta testers who are interested in giving us feedback. We're also starting a soft launch right now, so we have a few people who are interested in purchasing for it right now. Just because, like we talked about before, the factual time-saving application for it is really, really nice, where you don't have to worry about, like when I was a TA, it was so annoying when I would forget to change what time it was due, or forget like one of the specific nuances that the LMS was using. Then it would just like mess it up for the entire class, and then we'd have to like redo the quiz or redo the assignment or other things like that. And this kind of just like streamlines that whole process, makes it super easy, and you can do it all from one platform, so you don't have to change systems at all. Okay,
fantastic. So we're recording this in April 2025. So for fall 2025, will people be able to buy it like in August?
Yes. Yeah. We'll be able to purchase it next week, actually. Okay. So it'll be ready for that. And some of the new features that we've already created are the custom GPTs. So those are out right now, and we're beta testing with it, as well as the case study functionality. So So you just put in the specific course you want it to, or even more granularly, like a specific module or concept, and it will create a case study for you, so you can go through and kind of see
that's
some unique perspectives.
I gotta say, I've created those from scratch. They're such a pain in the neck. Like this is huge time savings for someone trying to teach people something.
For sure.
So good. And so by the time we post this, like it'll be pretty close. Within a couple of days, probably people could go on and subscribe to it. Yeah. And the custom GPTs, how custom in what way? Are they different personalities or how do they work?
Yeah. So custom as in, so ChatGPT has just like a massive amount of data that's been trained on, and it's really good at general inquiries, as well as you can get specific in certain elements. Like it's better in software than it would be in, maybe a more granular element of engineering.
Yeah, sure.
Like for instance, one of my best friends is just graduating from the engineering program, and he can't use ChatGPT because of the specifics that he's learning. It hasn't been trained on as well.
Got it, yeah.
And so we'll create a GPT that someone can just chat with as if they were chatting with a professor, specifically trained on the content from the course.
Okay, well.
And so that way it can help train them on the specifics of what they're learning, and it will have less hallucinations, and it will be more accurate because it will have that specific data that it has within its wheelhouse.
Yeah, such a good idea. And I got to say, Jacob, in terms of development, you've moved way faster than I expected. Like you guys are doing really great things. All right, so Jacob, the product's exciting, but you're also a startup company. It's a company creating CourseEQ. How did you come to launch the company, and how's that going?
Yeah, so right now we're doing beta testers with a few professors from BYU that I had the privilege of working with. They're super excited about it. They've been intrigued because a lot of the LMS systems have been built more for like a university rather than a professor specifically.
Yeah.
And so that's been a really fun experience of being able to tailor the experience for someone who feels like they need to learn each new system instead of the system learning them and building it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, which has been great.
That's good. And so you licensed this technology from BYU, and what is the plan for the company? Like, is it growth, spin out a bunch of products, or are we focusing on this one thing and just building up the base right now?
Yeah, right now for the next 6 months, I think the most important thing is just traction, just getting the number of people on there, getting a larger amount of data in terms of onboarding, as well as refining the current features that we have. And then after that, we'll probably start delving into new functionalities around it. But right now, the main focus is just bolstering the numbers in order to make sure that we are actually creating that value that we think we are.
Okay. So you are a technical person, you're a developer, but with business experience too.
Yeah.
How do you balance those? Because you could tinker on the product forever, right? And you've added some amazing things, but it feels like you're at a point now where it's really marketing, just letting people know what you've created, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. That's one of the hardest balances that I've tried to strike in my entrepreneurial adventures, because it's so easy to just spend hours and hours tinkering with the code or tinkering with the workflows or the data management or the UI UX, which is one of the parts that I love. Yeah. I love when it just flows so nicely, and
which it does. It's amazingly clean. It's really good.
And so for me specifically, I put just like deadlines for me. I say, okay, I can only work on this specific part of the project for an hour. And then after the hour, it's like, okay, now I have to change my mindset and focus more on, okay, I'm a company right now. I'm not just a designer. So focusing on creating strategic partnerships within BYU itself, as well as strategic partnerships with other organizations. Like for instance, we might be opening up a channel for high school and more public school opportunities, and then just pay on a per batch level. So it's like, $10 per teacher per year or something for them. And so that way we boost the traction way up, and it also gives us a lot of data on what's actually helping save time and produce the results for the teachers who need it.
okay, if I'm a public school teacher, I'm thinking paying $10 a semester or whatever so that I can save maybe 20 hours of work is a no-brainer. I'm absolutely doing that.
Yeah.
But selling to schools seems really hard because long sales cycle. So are you going direct to teachers, or does it make sense to go to schools?
So we're doing both right now. So far, it's been nice to go direct to teacher because, like what you talked about, the sales cycle is really long. And with that being said, a lot of people tend to avoid longer sales cycles because it is harder. And for us, we feel like that's one barrier of entry where we can really thrive in.
Got it.
Because we are operating on our unique design principles and developmental principles, we can move really, really fast and tailor it almost to like each public school district that we bring on.
Got it.
And so that way it's less about getting money super quick and more about like building that lasting relationship. So whatever happens with the future of education or more implementation of artificial intelligence within the public education space, we can still have those relationships and develop that and be able to iterate quickly with those individuals in order to maintain that market share.
Okay. All right. Well, it makes a lot of sense. You guys are doing a great job. The product looks great already. Like I say, we're going to put a link in the description so people can get on the beta process if they want to. How else should they reach out to you?
Great way is LinkedIn. You can also send us an email at contact at CourseEQ.com. And then we are also going to create a public website soon.
Okay. And people should feel free to reach out to me if they need to connect with you somehow too. So, okay. Well, thanks for taking the time to explain it, Jacob. Really exciting.
Of course. Thank you.